This computer.
It's all good.
We'll kick off shortly. I think we've had a few people join us. Okay, I think we'll kick off in just another minute, see if anyone else jumps on in. Kathy, I got a bit excited about your webinar, and I actually went down to the kids' stash of instruments. So I thought, oh, bit of fun this afternoon with you.
Always fun to play with different instruments.
That's right.
Play with the kids' toys.
Well, I just figured there's any excuse to ring a cowbell, right?
Oh, always. Everything's better with a cowbell.
Absolutely. All right, well, it's gone right on 4:30, so I think we will kick off our webinar. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shireen Wood, and I'm your Digital Learning Manager at MTA. I am really excited about this webinar, and I'm so happy to be introducing our host, Catherine Whedon, to you all. Catherine is an author and a primary school teacher, and she's about to take us on a pretty amazing journey. So thank you so much for joining us, Catherine, and I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be able to share this book with you and the journey that I've gone on in making it, and also the activities that I'm hoping you'll be able to take into your own classrooms to apply. So first off, I'm speaking to you here from Ngunnawal and Ngambri country in the ACT, and I extend my respect to elders past, present and emerging. So I thought that before I started with sharing the book, I would tell you a bit about my background of how I came here, came to this point. So I was born in northern Italy and thus had the privilege of growing up with two languages. And with that came the good fortune of learning to read Italian. Italian has a very clear orthography where pretty much it's one letter to one sound and very few exceptions to that. It meant that although I was fairly slow in my reading and writing, I didn't actually have any major problems learning to read despite having a family history of dyslexia. So when I started learning to read and spell in English, I had a ready-made spelling voice so that even though English has all these crazy letter combinations, I was able to just say it in my head how it would be in Italian and transfer that, and it would made spelling really easy. And also I had a frankly unfair etymological advantage with all the Latin roots. So most words I came across, I was able to relate back to what I knew in Italian. So I moved to Sydney when I was 10 and then came to Canberra at the end of school, studied classical guitar before deciding that I wasn't cut out for all the sitting down and being quiet that is involved in classical music. So I came into teaching, particularly high school music teaching. In my second year of teaching, due to my incompetence at filling out a form, I ended up teaching Year 5. It was a shock to find myself there, but what did shock me was that even though I was teaching these Year 5 kids who had had many years of schooling, they didn't have a clear idea of where all the sounds sat, in particular the vowels. And so I could see that made learning to spell a real challenge for them. And this seeded a question: how can I help my students understand and distinguish sounds in English? A bit of a Google search brought me to the term phonemes, and I put together a sound wall and helped them get their head around it a bit more. A few years later, after hearing a teacher sing Old MacDonald Has Some Vowels, I started wondering if I could use a musical perspective to help. So looking at each phoneme with how it's articulated, as you would if you're viewing your voice as an instrument. So thinking about what each sound is like, so buzzing bees or whooshing tree, rather than just what words it's in. So A for apple, where we go A in apple, but there's nothing particularly appleish about the A sound. So I also did some coaching with, if any of you are aware of Anita Collins, who now does Bigger Better Brains, who's really big on connecting music and like the benefits of music education across all areas of learning. And so that helped me build it into a preschool music literacy program, using many of the activities that we'll be talking about today. I then felt that it would be fun to turn this concept into a picture book, so that I could share the ideas and tools with a broader audience, with more parents and teachers and children. So after a few years and some wildly different manuscripts, it took me a while to get it right, I finally created Phonobet. So I'm just going to pause here and share my slides. Hopefully I can get that going quickly. Okay, that's all clear? The slides have come up, great. Okay, so what is Phonobet about? In short, it's the English phonetic system. English is a beautiful, rich language, but it is a bit of a pain to learn to read it, partly because of the mismatch between our written system and our phonetic system. So we've got 44-ish sounds, depending on your accent, and some of them are quite similar. So we have bid, bed, bead, beard, bared, bard, bad, and a million confused children, with wondering how on earth do I get all that in my head. And we rather helpfully tend to start education teaching these confused children with the unknown. So this set of alien letters we like to call the alphabet. Here is an O, it makes the O in ox, but also oat, and the ow in owl, and or in thought, and in love. Incidentally, that in love is usually spelt with a U. You can see it's a really confusing place to start. So there is another option. We can start with the known. So we can view the instrument we can take a speech to print approach. So start with what the students already know, their voice, their speech. Show them that their voice is an instrument that makes wonderful music that we call speech. And then we can explore it as we would a musical instrument, thinking about how we actually make the sound and exploring the qualities of each sound. And so here is where I want to jump briefly into another issue that's as close to my heart as early literacy, which I've mentioned before, which is that give the foundations of how to sing with your students. And of how to teach kids how to sing. So with both factors in mind, I did develop these activities that would serve a dual purpose: to help students explore the rudiments of music and the English phonetic system at the same time. So I think that's giving you the picture of where we came from. I decided there's a lot of research behind why starting with a firm foundation in phonemic awareness is really important. but there are many wonderful places that do a really good job of talking about this. So I thought instead of actually going through the research, I would tell you about, there's the Science of Reading in Schools group on Facebook, that's great, as well as 5 from 5, that website, if you just Google that. Spellphobet is Alison Clark is a speech pathologist in Victoria who does wonderful work, and there are heaps of resources in understanding sort of that importance of early phonemic awareness and phonics. And Reading Rockets is another one. So they are great places to go and lead you down the rabbit hole of all the research around reading. So before we get to those activities, I thought I would read my book. We'll see how I go at actually framing the pictures properly. So I might just read each page and then show you the illustrations. I'm sure you've met the alphabet, our very tidy friend, with A at the beginning and Z right at the end. It's nice and neat and works a treat for every writing need, except for one small problem. It's a little hard to read. There are letters that behave themselves with one main sound to each, like D for dog and dinosaur, and B for bat and beach. But some are far more cunning, like the A in catch and caught, the O in owl and ox and oat, or U in funny thought. So is it just a muddled mess you have to learn by heart? Or does our good old alphabet have friends who play a part? Come and meet the Phonobet, a very handy twin, a set of all the sounds you use when waggling your chin. Beginning with the consonants, they number 24. Depending on your accent, maybe fewer, maybe more. Now, when I'm actually first reading this to kids, I do stop a lot at different points to get them to interact with various elements, and I actually do a few activities before I start with a book. Even though accents is a very is something that they wouldn't know about, I actually don't I speed past that because I feel like that's a more complex concept that is very important to go into, but you're going to want to do that after they already have an understanding of the sounds. And a rustling trees. A hive of buzzing bees. A train along a track. B-d-j-g, drum with a bang and a whack. W-l-r-y, the sound of robots talking. Humming nanas going walking. Moving on to the vowels, roughly 20 here in all. Your mouth and lips and tongue in shapes, big as well as small. A, e, I, o, a, u sound like monkeys, short and sweet, while ah, or, zombies groaning on the street. A smiley pirate greets with A and E and I and oi. But ow, oh, ooh, that's a very grumpy boy. This is a great one to stop on and getting them doing all sorts of really sad sounds as they're reading this one. This is always a favourite, which leaves us with the random smelly ear and air and ur, from yucky stinky words like earwax, hair and fresh manure. They always, when they come to this page, that's poo! And it's a great time to introduce a new piece of vocabulary because there aren't many words that have the ur sound in English. So I say, yes, this is a special word. It's manure. Can we all say manure with a really gross face? Manure. They like that. And just one more, the sneaky schwa, the shruggish that hides in all the lazy bits of words like button and besides. Another one, a great one is here. They go, just do a shrug, go, and they all do that. So once you know your Phonobet, I'm certain that you'll find a wacky world of wonder words with sounds of every kind. The sounds are yours to say and sing and twist and taste and chew. And then what should you do with them? Well, that's up to you. And then at the back of the book, there's a whole pile of information on the different articulation and different accents and what that actually means. So lots to sort of dig into over time. It definitely wouldn't be a sit down and read all that information at the end. And some of the activities that we're going to be looking at today are in Fun with Sounds near the back of the book, and the others are in the teacher notes on the National Library website that go along with the book. So some of the activities. Usually before I even start, at my school visits, before I've even started the book, I want to get to warm them up to the concepts because it is a lot to take in when you're sitting there with the book. So having at least some that are pre-taught before the book. So I start with the unvoiced fricatives, which are the f, s, sh, and h. With these ones, I pull out a leaf, and this activity, you're working on them understanding that their voice is off and what that feels like. So we start off with the sh, because that's what they're most associated with, sort of leaves and wind. So we start off, and you can, playing at home, feel free to copy along. No one will see you, no one will laugh at you, you'll only laugh at me. So with this one, I'll just say to the class, we're going to do a leaf. Can you say shh? Now it's going to get windier, it's going to move more, we have to do it louder. So that one is a great for understanding. What you'll first find is they'll go like this, and their voices will turn off. So that's a point where I pause and say, no, we're going to just whisper this. Lots of kids you will find in their writing, they will confuse t and d, or p and b, particularly at the end of a word, because that understanding of voiced and unvoiced just can be quite hard, especially for kids who have a bit of a difficulty with sounds like that. So from sort of the literacy perspective, what you're talking about there, what they're learning about there is voiced and unvoiced. From a musical perspective, what I like about this activity is you're teaching control of breath. And what you might also talk about is the fact that we're pushing out all our air with the muscles in our tummy. Having a good control of air is so important for being able to hit pitch. But also you are looking at the concepts of loud and soft. For young kids, the concept of loud and soft and high and low go together a lot. So it's hard to get them to understand that you can do high and soft and low and quiet. So what I like about this activity is it separates out the ideas of highs and lows, because we can't whisper high and low. So it's just dealing with louds and soft, and they're having control, they're holding a leaf, and they're doing the movement along. So moving on, so after I've done one sound, I might introduce another one. So I would say, let's put our teeth on our lip. And then you might go back between the two sounds. So this one is the sh leaf, this one is the leaf. Sorry, what was I doing for this one? Yeah. And you can have fun getting different students holding the leaves and moving through the different activities. Next sound that I would introduce is, I'd say, we're going to put our tongues on our teeth. Tongue on our teeth. And they always like the fact that that sounds quite funny. And we're, again, doing the same activity. Moving on. Then you can introduce the s and the h. Is an interesting one because you'll run out of air really quickly. You run out. So we can then talk about the fact that we run out because we're not closing the mouth. We're not stopping there's nothing that's closing and stopping the air coming out. So we run out of air really quickly. After the trees, we've got the bees. So with this one, great for understanding that high and low. So starting off with what they know to be a B sound. So zzz, zzz, I'm trying to make this stay within the camera is harder, but so being able to do, you can either do that you're all doing it at once and they're just following your B as you're doing it, or you can do one action and then they do it. So my turn, zzz, your turn, and they do it. It's important to be able to push them up as high as they can. Lots of kids you'll find are singing in a drone. So they will, you try to get them to sing and they're just, no matter what they do, it just goes slightly higher and then slightly lower, and it's really hard to shift them. These vocal explorations are really, really good for getting them learning to sing in their head voice. So not just their chest voice, so they go zzz. You can hear there, I've moved to that head voice. So being able to go up there. So after I've done that one, we then move through the different articulations. Put your teeth on your lips. And it always tickles. That's always fun for them. The teeth on the tongue. And zh is a less common one in words. We don't have that in many words, so that one I kind of tend to leave last, but is always a fun one. Moving through those. So that's where that fits on both your musical and your phonemic articulatory awareness. So trains, moving on to trains. I think I have my yes, okay. So this is, I have little trains, and if I'm doing this with a small group, I will, or if I'm doing this without PowerPoints, I'll just have 4 little trains that I will get, and I can point along as they're going. So this is going to be working on their tracking, and I just can't for the life of me work out. So I think this is going left to right for you. Am I getting that right? So as they go it, you go p, t, ch, and I can't hold my extra train, but p, t, ch, k, p, t, ch, k, p, t, ch, k, p, t, ch, k. So they're tracking it along, and you're moving from slow to getting faster. So it's get that on the musical side, you're getting that concept of going from slow to fast and fast to slow. We also then end with a choo choo. That's always fun. And from a literacy perspective, other than them being able to practice these different sounds and noticing that it moves from the front of the mouth, p, t, ch, k. And if you want, you can use different cues to build that awareness of where in the mouth the sound is going. I tend to use p for pointing to the lips, t to show that the tongue is using just the tip, ch. I kind of smush my hand. I talk about that as being the smush position because the tongue is just a little bit bent up, and setting that up as a smushed position will help you later on when you're when the kids are a bit older and you're explaining that sound can end up smushing together and making a kind of in-between sound. Like, for example, we've got what the Americans would say is tuna and we would say is tuna, because y kind of goes into a smush in between. So that's kind of further down the track knowledge that you can seed at this point by just giving them just the language, saying that it's the tongue's a little bit smushed back in ch sound, and then you've got k at the back of the mouth. So starting off slowly, moving quicker. You can then use this from a musical perspective to build an awareness of beat and of different rhythms. So there we've got, in that first row, we've got 1 sound per box. I will then say, you know, are you ready for a challenge? I'm going to do this, something different. Can you notice what I'm doing in this second row? P, t, ch, k, p, t, ch, k, p, t, ch, k. So then they will say, oh, there were 2 sounds in each train or something similar. And then I can say, yes, we were going twice as fast. So you can use their language and then recast it using sort of the language about speed and tempo and rhythm. And so then we would try and do that together. I will then move it on. If I have a group for when I was doing this with kids for a whole year, we ended up then moving through different rhythms where we swapped around orders of sound. We introduced, you can have an empty train to introduce the idea of rests in music. So from memory it was p, t, ch, k, t, k, ch, k. And they can learn the idea of we didn't say anything in that train. And so you it's a good way of having boxes that you can introduce different rhythms without the so it's really fun to be able to do this on instruments when you're introducing rhythms, but it is also nice for them to realize that they have a way in their own mouth to make rhythms, and we talk about it as we're doing some beatboxing and then moving around like that. So that's why I really like doing these train activities. So moving on to from trains, the b, d, j, g sounds are very, because they're the voice on, they've got a bit more color to them, and so using the drum sort of the idea of we're going to make these word chants, word rhythms. They're just really good words for that. So the ones I really like is boom. Yes, you've got a different sound at the end of it, but it's got that b at the beginning. So boom, boom. If I'm in this activity, the idea is they find different words or phrases that have the b, d, j, g sounds in them, and then they can turn them around to make different rhythms. So this is a particular rhythm I really like. So how I'd introduce it, I'd say, well, what do you see here? We've got drums. Okay, drums make a boom, boom sound. All right, what's this? It's a digger. Okay, if this is a little digger, what's this one? It's a big digger. And if that's a big digger, what's this one? And then they say a huge digger, and I say yes, a bigger digger, because I really like the way that phrase bigger digger. They're practicing 2 of the sounds, moving forward and backwards in the mouth. So then here we've got jam. So jam to jam to jam. Practice each of those rhythms on their own, and then we put it together. Boom, boom, bigger digger, jam to jam to jam. So I guess from a literacy perspective, this one's not quite as strong, except that, they're having an awareness of there being those voiced plosive sounds, but d, j, g, finding them in words. But from a musical perspective, this is great because they're learning, this is teaching composition. They are taking different making manageable choices where you give them a set of words. It might be boom, boom, might be one option, bigger digger, and you might only pick one other one, like jug. So boom, boom, jug, boom, boom, jug might be the rhythm that they come up with. You can even have them as pictures and they put them in different orders. And so you're teaching them from very early on to be able to compose and create their own music. The jam to jam to jam, I keep this rhythm in there because it's fun to say, but if I wouldn't use that when I'm teaching them to put those, first teaching them to make those rhythms, because it goes over 2 beats, it's rhythmically more complex. But it is fun to say when we're doing just this. So this rhythm is boom, boom, bigger digger, jam to jam to jam, boom, boom, bigger digger, jam to jam to jam. So it's a good fun one to do with them. Okay, so this is a song I came up with when I was first writing, trying to turn this into a picture book, and I first wrote it as just a rhyme, and then I turned it into a song. So I will teach you the song version, and hopefully we've worked out the sound so that this works fine. A-hey, a-hee, a-hi, ahoy, I'd like to be a pirate boy, in rain or shine the sea or mine, and coins would be my favourite toys. So I'd spend some time just teaching the kids this song. So I might do some activities you can say is, can you listen and do this when you hear me say ahoy? A-hey, a-hee, a-hi, ahoy, I'd like to be a pirate boy, in rain or shine the sea or mine, and coins would be my favourite toys. All right, let's see if you can sing that first part with me. A-hey, a-hee, a-hi, ahoy, I'd like to be a pirate boy. You can break it up in different ways, doing some bits where I sing, then they sing, I sing, they sing. Another one might be that you might draw little pictures for each one or add some actions. So the third line in my school visits, I've been going in rain or shine, the sea or mine, and we've been singing it like that. To get lots of repetition, another thing that's nice to do is to do it in some voices. So let's sing it in a really strong way. A-hey, a-hee, a-hi, ahoy, I'd like to be a pirate boy. So on, they love picking different voices. So then they'll say, let's sing it in a squeaky voice. A-hey, a-hee, a-hi, ahoy, I'd like to be a pirate boy. Always giving opportunity for them to have their creativity part of the lesson is always great. So once they know this song, this is where we get to the part that is building our phonemic awareness. Something that I feel that I've found is really a challenge that isn't necessarily, even in good phonics programs, isn't necessarily well dealt with, is teaching kids to be able to discriminate between different vowels, particularly similar vowel sounds. So in this one, the sounds we're looking at are A, E, I, Oi. So they all end in a smile. A, E, I, and Oi. So I'd spend some time giving kids awareness of that. And then we're going to start with being aware of where the Oi sound is in this. So can you, every time you hear, kids, every time you hear the Oi sound, we're going to do this. So let's sing it slowly and be listening carefully for those sounds. A-hey, a-hee, a-hi, ahoy, I'd like to be a pirate boy, in rain or shine, the sea or mine, and coins would be my favorite toy. Lots of repetition so that they're aware of where they're hearing those sounds. Then moving on to, we're going to do another sound. So at this point, I'd say, which one do you want to do? Do you want to do a hi, a he, or a hey? And so let's say we're going to do a hey. So a hey, a he, a hi, ahoy. Notice I'm not doing it at the same time as doing the ois. I'd like to be a pirate boy, in rain or shine, the sea or mine, and coins would be my favorite toy. So you remove the other sound and focus on this one. Then your next level of challenge is that we're going to put both together. So a hey, a he, a hi, ahoy, I'd like to be a pirate boy, in rain or shine, the sea or mine, and coins would be my favorite toy. Then we add the, you'd move on to another sound, so the a he maybe. A hey, a he, a hi, ahoy, I'd like to be a pirate boy, in rain or shine, the sea or mine, and coins would be my favorite toys. then eventually the idea is that you put it all together, and it's always fun to put it together, even if when they're not confident, just because they enjoy the fact that we're all over the place. So, hey, he, hi, ahoy, I'd like to be a pirate boy in rain, in rain or shine, the sea or mine. Even I get lost here. Then coins would be my favorite toys. So they enjoy getting totally lost in there. But the idea is you're developing a lot of vowel discrimination, being able to tell between the vowels without having to worry about them actually writing them. We want to get to the writing point. That is really important. But if you're interested in finding out cognitive load theory, very, very interesting. Look up those words, cognitive load theory. But basically, one of the concepts is we want to make sure that we're dealing with small amounts at a time, so that, or the right amount of information at the time, so that they can take it in. If you do too much, they're going to get overwhelmed. So being able to separate out the task of telling sounds apart without having to worry about writing it sometimes will be a good balance for what the other things you're doing. And then, to be fair, because it's just a boy, I did add a second verse with girl. A hey, a he, a hi, a hurl, I'd like to be a pirate girl. I'd roam the seas upon the breeze in search for silver, gold and pearl. Now the sound obviously not part of this A-E-I-OI set, but still a bit of fun to go through. A cow at home on the loo. I think this is, we'll get through this in the next one. So this one is same concept, but the sounds instead are ow, o, oo. Before I had the grumpy boy, I had a cow on the loo for those ow, o, oo sounds. And my kids absolutely love this one because they love anything with poo in it. So it goes like this. A cow at home on the loo is frowning down at her poo. For every cow knows that when she goes, it's meant to be brown, not blue. From a musical perspective here, this is a great one for them to, like the pitch doesn't move as much and it's in that higher range. Really thinking about beautiful, smooth singing. I talk about our opera voices as we're singing it. So it's just a nice, fun one to be doing and developing that. From our literacy perspective, we're still looking at that vowel discrimination, this time between ow, o, and oo, which are all rounding vowels. So they all move, all end with a oo at the end. So ow, o, oo. So give them awareness of that. So then you might want to have a cow at home. I think I can't remember. Oh yes, we're going this for O. So a cow at home on the loo is frowning down at her poo. For every cow knows that when she goes, it's meant to be brown, not blue. So a bit of a fun activity there with that one. I'd forgotten I had this one in. So this one is dealing with those short vowels. And I also use it to bring in something else that I really care about, which is morphology. We all know morphology, so being able to teach about so English isn't just a language where we go by just our sounds. It's also the different chunks of meaning and words are really, really important. And something I believe strongly is that we shouldn't just be leaving that to the older years. That is a concept we can teach right from the beginning of kindergarten. The first one you would be starting with would be plural S, because as soon as you're introducing S, you can have cat and cats. And we notice when there's that S there on the end, it's doing two jobs. It's saying it's giving us the sound S, but it's also telling us that there isn't just one cat. There are 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or more. So with this one, this particular song, you might be able to notice there that there are lots of ing morphemes. So it's a good one to be able to introduce that. So this one is a spoken chant. So ticky nicky monkey sitting in a nook, picking up a red pen, messing up a book, dropping all the cups, putting honey in the lock, banging with a hammer on a big black clock. So actions, I will try my best to fit my actions within this box. We'll see. So ticky nicky monkey, that I would be normally tapped on my knees. Sitting in a nook, I talk about what a nook is because most of them don't know. We talk about our reading corner and how it's closed in and how that's a bit like a nook. And so he's curled up in a little nook, picking up a red pen, messing up a book, dropping all the cups, putting honey in a lock, banging with a hammer on a big black clock. Having spoken chants, really great for building their awareness of different rhythm and being able to stay right on the beat. So from that musical perspective, that's what we're doing. We're making sure that when they're doing Ticky Nicky Monkey, I'll do it on my head just because you can see it. What you'll find they will initially do is they won't be able to match up their syllables with the rhythm. So they'll go Ticky Nicky and be all over the place. What you want them doing is to be able to do it together. We're going to match. So Ticky Nicky, and you might have to practice that slowly. And there's little bits of that. So ticky nicky monkey sitting in a nook. And then banging with a hammer on a big black clock. There at the end, we're really just going with the rhythm, with the beat. So beat is always going to be the same. You can talk about the fact that our words are doing different things in that last line, but we are always hitting on the beat. Whereas in that first one, ticky nicky, we are matching our words to the beat, to the hits. So there you'd be talking about this being ticky nicky, or yeah. So that is rhythm, is when our words match what we're clapping or hitting, and the beat is always stays the same even if our words change. So yeah, so there's that concept. Yeah, so with this one, it's all using almost all short vowels. It's really hard to write using only short vowels if you've ever tried it. So ticky nicky monkey, that one's not. That's one of our pirate sounds. Sitting in a nook, picking up a red pen. So the R is actually a different one. That's our schwa that we had at the end, the shruggy schwa. That I can't remember my line anyway, that like in button, and so that's a whole other concept, but the rest of them in there are mostly short vowels. So this should be one that you can kind of deal sort of later in kindergarten, especially if you're teaching it verbally and then showing them the text afterwards. You can look at the fact that there's an ing ending. See, we've got that I and ng sound together, and that's telling us that he's doing all these things now. So that's just a good one that you can introduce a particular morpheme at the same time as using it for rhythm and for short vowels. Okay, I think we might have to leave this one, I think. Probably don't have time for that one because I do want to give you just a bit of time for if there are any questions. Let me work out how I stop sharing. Hang on, stop sharing. Excellent. So I should have actually said this earlier. If anyone has any questions,
I forgot to mention that too at the beginning. Sorry, Kathy. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to jump on in and ask. This is your time.
Alternatively, what I can do is I can go through that next little activity quickly, and then if there are any questions afterwards, I'm happy to stick around and answer. So I'll just
and type through any questions, and if you're really shy, send them through and we can get them to Kathy as well. So
yeah. Okay. Hang on, going So with this one, another thing, this activity isn't so much tied to the book, but it's another one that I've been doing for teaching strong and weak syllables. So potato, 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 tomato, 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 potato, tomato, potato, tomato, potato, tomato, and squash. I then teach about, or I get them to pick a different voice. So let's do it in a deep voice. Potato, 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 tomato, 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 and so on. I then get them to say, right, we're going to do the potatoes in a loud voice, in a deep voice, and the tomatoes in a high voice. So potato, 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 tomato, 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 potato, tomato, potato, tomato, potato, tomato, and squash. So once we've had lots of fun with the song, I want to teach them the idea of syllables and then the idea of stress. So syllables, I got this particular way of counting syllables from Lynn Stone, who got it from someone else, and I've forgotten who she said she got it from. We often say clapping, but the problem with that is you lose all idea of what syllables are strong and which ones are weak. So we go potato, and then you've got no idea what's strong, what's weak. So this is called zipped lips, where you get them to zip their lips and you say it, count how many hms there are. So So they notice, oh, there are 3 of them. So then once you've got the idea of there being 3 syllables, we say, right, we want to see which one of these is stronger than the others. And we're going to do that by hitting our hand when we're really angry. So we're going to say potato in an angry way and hit our hand. So potato. And then you do it several times, especially if you're doing this with your lower years. Potato. And they can then see, especially if you move your hand along with the circles, they will see that it's that middle syllable is where we hit our hands. So that is the one that's strong. And we say, okay, we want to swap the potato out for a different thing, a different word that is a same potato kind of word with a weak, strong, weak. So we can have, they get them to pick from the pictures, and I say, all right, they're going to try cookies. Let's try cookies. Oh no, that's not one. We'd count it out. Oh, that's only 2. Let's try burritos. Okay, it's 3. Let's say it angrily. Burritos. And so then you can work out that is. I've been doing this with my year 3s, and that's kind of, I feel like a really good level to do it with. You could do it with younger years, but you'd have to like really spread it out over a long time. So I think there are maybe some questions. Let me just go out of the stop sharing so I can go out here. Copy of the slides. I'm more than happy to send those through to Shireen, and she can send that. Oh, okay, you've got the recording going, so that will deal with that. And the video. Okay, so I think that's all. Is that all the questions?
Does anyone else have any questions for Kathy? No? Well, we're excited that you'll be able to buy her book through MTA. We'll send through a link for all that as well. So Rachel, you were right. I will be buying that for my children's teachers for Christmas.
Wonderful. Yeah. One other thing that I did want to say is there's also a read-along video now available on YouTube from the National Library. So you can look at that, and also, especially if you're wanting your students' families to have an understanding of what's this business about sounds as opposed to letters, you'll be able to refer them to that video so that they can get an understanding. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kathy. Can I just say, as a mum, I've really enjoyed your session, obviously as a professional as well, but it's just nice to see how innovative you are with your students and bringing this all to life. So I've thoroughly enjoyed this webinar. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.
And thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great evening, and we'll send through the links.
Cool. you very much.
All right. Have a great night, everyone. We'll send it all through. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Bye.
Thanks, Kathy.
Bye.